to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. Let's kind of jump right in here. Oh yeah, hold on. Time out. Happy Thursday, everybody. I do have to make a couple of announcements because my team behind the scenes says I got to start saying this at the beginning of the show as well as the end of the show. Drop a weekly newsletter, comes out every single Wednesday. I won't auto sign you up if I have your email, but if you want to subscribe to it, you guys just go to thefreightcoach.com. It'll auto prompt you to register for it. And then also, if you guys get value in what you hear here today, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. All right, you guys, let's jump in. Marshall Sheldon says, fire intro, my guy. I appreciate that, Marshall. Thank you so much. My team and I put a lot of work in that intro here over the years. It only took us 5 years to get a good one. Corey Buchan, happy Thirsty Thursday. Sonny Sharma, good morning, freight freaks out there. Sonny, I got to, on YouTube and other social media platforms, when I use choice words early on in the stream, it kind of wrecks the reach out there, if you know what I mean, Ben. But we got some good articles we're going to break down here today. And, we're going to also kind of talk about the market a little bit as well, you guys, because I try and do that anytime I'm doing solo shows. I am out here and I'm going to put some data out there that we personally use inside of our freight brokerage to make decisions on where I personally feel like the market is trending and where things are at out there. And so that's what it is today on a solo show, you guys. And I got this information from DAT, actually. And this was from the last week, though, going up into, I got this sent to me the other day, but it was spot market data. Loads and truck posts declined out there for the holiday week, which is pretty understanding at that. And, the number of trucks posted also decreased out there as well. Tighter capacity and the urgency to move freight by the end of Q2 pushed the national average van and reefer rates higher, spot rates higher out there. Broker to carrier 7-day spot average. It was dry vans were at $2.07 a mile. Refrigerated was at $2.42 a mile. And flatbed was down, though, at $2.47 a mile out there, you guys. And then again, so a lot of this information, what does this all mean? Obviously, the 4th of July holiday is going to affect a lot of the pricing out there. As you saw, capacity was tight in certain markets, not everywhere, though, right? And this is why I feel like it's very imperative to talk about the overall freight market, as well as like singular markets as out there, right? Because like when you see overall, like, hey, it looks like the market was tightened up. That's not everywhere, though, right? Like a lot of the lanes that we were moving. And again, my strategy, I don't necessarily play the spot market very much at all. Like when I have freight to move, I go to our core carriers first. So the majority of our freight is pre-booked. It's about 60 to 70% of our freight is pre-booked. And the most effective freight brokers out there are pre-booking their freight with set up and active carriers that they've been working with in the past. So again, some of this data can be skewed, and if you see one area of the country is tightening up, that doesn't mean everywhere is tightening up. So you need to be aware of that before you go and adjust your prices accordingly, right? Because I feel like so many people preemptively change their pricing in the event because they saw certain headlines out there that, oh, this is happening or that is happening. And although that can happen in certain markets, it's not everywhere. So, a lot of us need to be very aware of the freight lanes that we're moving. And we don't want to price ourselves out of any opportunities out there because we see that, oh, the market's tightening up. Maybe we should raise our rates or something like that, right? So we need to be ahead of it. But they did move a couple of lanes out here. And this is what I liked about this report that I got sent. So it landed at Lakeland, Florida, $3.26 a mile. This is for a reefer, excuse me. There was a 15% week over week price increase out there. Dallas to Houston it was at $2.78 a mile, and that was an 11% increase. And then Houston to Dallas, $2.60 a mile, 20% increase. And then McAllen to Fort Worth, $2.64 per mile, and that's a 15% increase. And then at $2.46 a mile, California outbound reefer loads paid carriers 5 cents more per mile last week. And this represents a 27-cent decline year over year on a 23% decrease in produce shipments. And, again, I've had my friend Cody Kaler on the show a bunch about the produce market. And, he had said it last time. It's an interesting time out there, you guys. It really is. And, from my perspective with where things are currently, I would hold as firm as possible for as long as possible, because I do not see the market changing anytime soon. And that is, I'm not here to be a bearer of bad news. I am just coming to you guys from somebody who actually makes cold calls and who actually moves freight. Although I am a pretty face, I'm not just a pretty face out there in the industry, you guys. I'm in the trenches with you. So a lot of the data that I see, a lot of the different reports, and a lot of the news sources that I see out there, you guys, I think we really need to temper our expectations on where things can and will trend for the rest of this year. I'm not trying to deter anybody from going out there, because I'm growth at all costs, right? So I am on all offense at all times. And I think that's got to be our mentality, right? Like, no matter what, we have to find results. All right. And that has to be our mentality, because there's a lot of data that's coming at us. And we are in that situation, and we are winning freight, because I just want to load, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Anyways, you guys, that is it for that little segment. And again, I'm going to be doing that more when I'm on these solo shows. I'm going to break it up. I'm going to start the show more market driven, more data driven that's out there, because again, I'm actually in the trenches, you guys, and I want to help you guys have a better understanding on how the freight market actually works and how we can apply it into our daily businesses out there. So let's jump in. And I always love when my second favorite attorney writes an article out there. My first favorite attorney is the one that represents me, because he's the one who actually keeps me in line with everything. But my second favorite attorney is the armchair attorney, Mr. AKA Matt Leffler, who also published it on my favorite media source in the industry, my friends over at the JOC. And it was talking about that Warner case. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, there was a recent overturn on a 2014 accident. It was a lot of money. And I know I talked about this last week, but anytime a lawyer can decipher this information, I want to talk about this in particular, because it helps all the listeners out there that own trucks, that are drivers and everything. And it helps you better understand a lot of what this could mean. And, and also there's a lot of shippers out there that have privatized their fleets over the years and are maybe thinking about privatizing their fleets. And he touched on both of these things, right? So shippers operating private trucking fleets will be buoyed by a June 27th decision by the Supreme Court of Texas, which overturned that $100 million ruling. The court held the trucking company's driver, although possibly negligent in how he operated his vehicle on the road, was not the proximate cause of the tragic cross-median crash that killed one child and left another permanently paralyzed. The case holds implications for truckload carriers from large for-hire carriers such as Werner to smaller operators, but also for shippers operating their own private fleets who will be impacted by the precedent set by this decision. That makes it more than merely a procedural victory for Werner. The boundaries for shippers, for private fleet operators and shippers with dedicated transportation assets, the implications are significant and potentially transformative. The ruling offers clarity and potentially limits exposure in high-dollar catastrophic loss cases, particularly those involving third-party drivers who are true proximate causes of an accident. Previously, plaintiff attorneys have advanced theories of negligent training, hiring, or dispatch to hook employers into liability, even when their driver was not principally at fault. But the Werner decision sharply limits those derivative theories unless the employee's conduct itself meets substantial factor thresholds of proximate causes. This limitation matters in an era of rising nuclear verdicts, so-called liability verdicts that exceeds $10 million, and increasingly aggressive plaintiff strategies in transportation litigation out there. And then the legal crux, proximate cause. The court's opinion turned on a technical yet crucial doctrine, proximate cause. Texas law requires that to hold someone liable for negligence, their actions must be a substantial factor in causing the industry, not just part of the chain of events. And then I want you guys to go out there and read this article for yourself. So I'm going to jump forward to a word of caution. While this ruling is technically a win for carriers and shippers, it also underscores the importance of robust documentation and clear protocols. The Supreme Court of Texas accepted that Werner's training may have been imperfect, but because the crash wasn't proximately caused by the training or by Ali's conduct, it did not matter. Private fleets should take note. This ruling doesn't absolve companies from preparing their drivers for adverse conditions or documenting compliance with safety protocols. This does provide a legal firewall when accidents occur beyond their control. So at the end of the day, what does this all mean? I mean, it's honestly a great segue from my guest yesterday. I had Brenda Columbus on from DriveWise, and I'm not trying to say that DriveWise's technology would have prevented or any of this specific Werner case, because at the end of the day, if you just to save you guys a little bit of time, the driver was going eastbound. I believe it was eastbound, and then the Werner truck was going westbound. The driver who was going eastbound crossed the median and hit the Werner truck. But at the end of the day, you guys, our topic of conversation was, it was about weather related. It was about slowdowns in traffic and, doing those in-cab alerts to help make better decisions out there. And, they did a study that we were talking about yesterday. 89%, excuse me, I don't want to misquote the study. 89% of drivers who utilized that said that it was a massive benefit to their operation out there. So again, and then I need to put this in there because free is always a great price. You guys, DriveWise offers a free tool for drivers to utilize in that event. And to Matt's point in here, you guys, and this is the thing that stuck out the most, and all of the safety and compliance guys that I've had on this show over the years, and it's a bunch, they've all talked about that process and procedure, having all of that stuff documented. And again, I'm not going to say that any of this would absolve any wrongdoing, but if you have monitors inside of your truck that lets you know that, hey, there's an accident in ahead, slow down, gives you a better reaction time out there, you guys, I'm assuming, again, I'm not a lawyer, and this is maybe what I'll have Matt come on and talk about next when he comes on, is having tools at your disposal like that, does that help protect your organization? Because at the end of the day, you guys, you have to do a lot of that. I understand why drivers don't want cameras in the cab of their truck or cameras at all. But in today's day and age, you guys, you have to protect yourself. And this article is it's a great indicator on where things are. And, all this needs you guys is one precedent setting case like this. And then again, the way that a lot of this works is they'll reference that case in future cases. And I feel like at the end of the day, you guys, we have to learn from a lot of this. How do we make our organizations better? How do we make them more efficient? And at the end of the day, you guys, how do we save lives? Because I don't know of anybody who is in this industry that wants to see any fatalities happen. And again, our drive and our motivation is how do we get that down to as low as possible to improve the safety of the motoring public out there, you guys. So check that article out. Was from JOC. Follow Matt Leffler on LinkedIn as well, you guys, because I'm sure he's going to be posting a bunch about this article here recently or in the coming days and everything, because I saw something out there. So check that one out, you guys, and see where what you can do possibly inside of your business. Again, you guys, all the links to these articles will be put in the show notes and everything for you guys to check out and reference as well. Next article, you guys, again, this is going to be on the topic of accidents here, because a lot of brokers don't think that they will ever be brought into this. And there is a lot, not a lot, but there have been some pretty intense cases where broker liability has been called in, and it sounds like it is going to be a part of it here and continuing, right? So again, brokers, you got to be very, very aware of what you are saying to the drivers and what you should or shouldn't say. This one came from FreightWaves, and it was earlier TQL victory on broker liability overturned by the Sixth Circuit. Is it going to go to the Supreme Court next? The legal issue of broker liability just got a lot messier when an appellate court decision that reversed an earlier lower court victory by TQL. And the outcome could open the door again for what many in the industry have long sought, a Supreme Court review to clear up inconsistency on broker liability among federal circuit courts. The court split is now 2-2, with the pair having ruled against the 3PL on the question of federal law protecting broker protection from litigation, and two others have backed strong protection against brokers from lawsuits. And then it goes on to say that the Sixth Circuit Tuesday reversed an earlier decision in the Cox versus TQL that had found TQL was not liable for its role in hiring a driver that was involved in a 2019 fatal accident. As had been the decision in several other recent broker liability cases, the U.S. District Court of Southern Ohio in June 2024 found that the Federal Aviation Administration Authorization, which is the F4A Act, also known as F4A, protected TQL as a broker from the liability in the hiring of Gold Transit, a carrier that was involved in a fatal 2019 crash. But the decision was reversed Tuesday out there. And then the exception, which is also part of the F4A and ultimately led to C.H. Robinson's defeat in the 2020 broker liability, Miller versus Robinson, essentially that while the F4A does offer significant legal protection against transportation providers in most circumstances by preempting state action, F4A does not completely protect them over the issues of safety. So again, I think that this calls into question the ultimate importance of how are you actually sourcing your carriers. And now, again, I don't know all of the details from all of these cases. I would highly, highly recommend you guys do your own research on these. Gosh dang it. I just saw a post out there the other day about this one in particular. Hold on. I'm going to get it for you here. Gosh dang it. Brian Nelson, excuse me. He's with Taylor. They just changed their law firm name as well. But Brian Nelson, follow him. He's been on the show in the past. He had just put a post out there about this, you guys, breaking it down. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a fucking freight broker at the end of the day. So I want you guys to listen to actual attorneys about this and what they say. But again, I feel like this does call into question, how are you actually sourcing the carriers for your shipments? And I'm not here to say anything other than this. This calls in the utmost importance of it. How you are sourcing your carriers is pivotal for your business, because again, it's only a matter of time, I think, before you might have a bad moment and you might make a bad decision. And then you might think like, oh, I'm a broker, I'm not going to get pulled into this. And you very much will get pulled into a lot of this because, again, it's one of those things, you guys, when there's any accident, hopefully it's not a fatality, but any major accident where there's significant things that are all parties are getting pulled in. All parties will. Lawyers will go after anybody and everybody, and they will go after you as a broker and see, did you do anything to cause this? Right. So I think you need to be aware of, again, what we were talking about in the previous article as well. How are you communicating with drivers? Are you doing anything that is kind of wishy-washy? And again, I feel like you have to be very aware. If there's any piece of advice I feel comfortable giving out there, and again, this is something that we do inside of my organization. I do not give directions to drivers under any circumstances. I will give them a pickup address, but I will not give them directions. I will not tell them how to drive. And I think like you need to go a little bit deeper in what you are saying out there, because it could never be tied in that you asked somebody to do something illegal, i.e., shut off your e-logs, shit like that, which again, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I've heard all the stories out there. You guys, you got to be very aware and very cautious about what you are doing and how you are saying it, because at the end of the day, you guys, no truckload is worth a human life. And I feel like a lot of these situations bring up a very great opportunity for you to look at your internal processes and how do you protect your business out there. Check this article out, you guys. It's from FreightWaves. It's a really good article. All right. And for the brokers that are out there, for you to think that you won't be pulled in, you are grossly mistaken in that. And you better, and again, back to the processes that they were talking about in the Warner cases. Do you have documented SOPs? Can you prove that you did or did not do something? I think that's the big matter of fact of a lot of these cases, you guys. So again, just be aware of that and what can you do to protect your organization, you guys. That article was from FreightWaves. Check it out. Again, the links will be tagged in the posts and everything out there. Third and final article. This one just came out this morning, yesterday afternoon, this morning. And this was from overdriveonline.com. FMCSA drops a major hint on fate of broker transparency rulemaking. DOT Secretary Sean Duffy had a recent media blitz unveiling a pro-trucker package promising more money for truck parking, streamlined regulations, and crackdown on illegal brokering. Truck parking, $275 million was going on that. But I want to skip to the part on the crackdown on illegal brokering. Anyone who spends time on the road load boards knows that fraud and double brokering has twisted the industry in knots, putting brokers on the defensive and giving a rise to an entire carrier vetting ecosystem that often falsely flags carriers as risky while doing almost nothing to stem the rising tide of cargo theft out there. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that statement, but I definitely, there has been a rise in carrier vetting ecosystem out there. Overdrive inquired with the DOT and the FMCSA about what exactly they'll do to combat of what they refer to as unlawful double brokering. The FMCSA again began issuing $10,000 civil penalties for perjury and chameleon carriers not disclosing affiliations. Does DOT mean that a major overhaul in the registration will address freight fraud? I think, yes, we need to legitimately, I think that's where I'm going to stop quick. That is where the problem truly lies. It is with the FMCSA and how they are allowing people to sign up and get an actual MC in the DOT number. I think that is where we need to look. We can't look out into the industry and point the fingers into the industry and say a broker's not doing something or a carrier is not doing something in this instance. It is literally starts and stops with the FMCSA. All right. And again, I'm going to point this out for the 87,000th time. Why is there 400 fucking businesses at one address? How is that the FMCSA allowing that to happen? All right. Let's be honest, you guys, there's a lot of glaring things that could be stopped at the federal level, but I digress. To promote fairness, Okay, excuse me. A DOT spokesperson didn't directly address those points, but instead, when asked point blank what it was doing about illegal brokering, the department may have dropped a major hint in leaning onto the most divisive issue in freight, broker transparency. To promote fairness and stability of the industry, the FMCSA is renewing its focus on combating of unlawful double brokering. That renewed focus includes reviewing the entire portfolio of regulatory action listed in the fall 2024 United Agenda, including the broker transparency. The FMCSA in November of 2024 issued a notice of proposed rulemaking in the Federal Register that would amend the existing broker transparency regulations in 49 Code Federal Regulation 371.3 in a way intended to reinforce broker transparency for motor carriers to better tailor the required contents of the records to the purpose of broker transparency. Now, this is where I'm going to piss a lot of people off that drive trucks. Okay. The verbiage inside of this, okay, is vastly different than the way the transaction is today. And again, I'm not here to argue about price gouging or anything like that. I'm here to talk about the specific verbiage inside of here. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, when this was written, and this is why, in my opinion, it does need to be overhauled. It does need to be cleaned up, because carriers have never called me as a freight broker and said, "Hey, Chris, let me hire you to find me freight." Okay. And to the utmost best of my understanding inside of this, that is the way it was done back in the day, where a carrier would hire a freight broker directly to go out there and represent them and find them freight. The entire transaction has reversed, in my opinion. Okay. And from my standpoint, I go and find a carrier for these loads, right? Like, I go to my customer, I solicit them, I try and find them business, and then I go out there and then I hire a carrier to do the job, right? So it's almost like the roles have reversed in this instance. And this is why I feel like the verbiage does need to be changed, because this ultimately, in my opinion, describes what a dispatch service does for a trucking company. And I feel like the dispatch services that are out there, at the end of the day, not all of them, right? Because there's bad actors on every side of the industry. But I feel like this is way more applicable to dispatch services. And I feel like they are the next iteration of the industry that needs to be actually regulated, because a lot of them aren't. All right. They are not regulated at all. They have no rules. They can kind of go out, and they're the ones who are misrepresenting themselves to go out and find direct freight because they're not actually a broker at that time. Right. So I do think that this does need to be talked about. I am glad to see that the DOT and the FMCSA are taking notice of this, because I truly feel like this will absolve a lot of freight brokers from the way that things are written back here, right? Because it's not done that way. Again, I personally, in my almost 15 years of brokering freight, have never had a carrier call me and say, "Hey, Chris, let me hire you to directly go out there and find freight for me on my behalf." All right. And to the best of my knowledge, that is the current verbiage inside of this. All right. It is not done that way anymore. I'm not saying that there aren't those relationships that are out there, but at the end of the day, I think that this needs to be cleaned up to kind of stop a lot of this. It doesn't help that there are people out there posting certain things. And again, you guys, you can doctor any documents on social media that you want. And I'm not here to say that I am advocating for cheap freight. I want to be abundantly clear. I am not about advocating for anything that is unethically done inside of this industry. I try my absolute best to remain as ethical as I possibly can. And if I make mistakes, I will own up to those mistakes. But when it comes to broker transparency, you guys, I think it does need to be rewritten, because the transaction is not done in that regard anymore. And I feel like dispatch services need to be heavily regulated the way that freight brokers are regulated. Dispatch services probably should have a bond. They probably should be required to have insurance. And I think brokers should be required to have insurance out there as well. But it's going to be a positive step in the right direction because it needs to be done. The verbiage needs to be cleaned up, and it needs to be very crystal clear on how these transactions are actually done out there, you guys. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today. As always, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the